Hi, I'm Lori Massey-Brissett, and I'm running for the Fourth Court of Appeals. It's a court with family law, civil, and criminal jurisdiction over 32 counties. And the jurisdiction is so big, it's the size of the state of Pennsylvania and includes most of the Texas-Mexico border. But regardless of the location or its size, it's a pretty important race simply because of what's happening in our world today. You've seen it. Whether you are a Democrat who believes the Trump-appointed judge in the Florida documents case is corrupt, or a Republican who believes the Democrat judge in the New York hush money trial is on the take, or you've just been watching reports about the justices on the United States Supreme Court, you're probably wondering if it's even possible for anyone, to be truly impartial and fair today. After traveling across this court's jurisdiction well over 4 months now, I'd say many of us are having that sick feeling deep down in our stomach, that collective brick in our gut, wondering whether we as a world or as a community are headed in the right direction. We have that feeling because we see what's happening in our own small worlds, in our living rooms and our dining tables, where families are breaking down and friends are breaking up because we simply cannot even have a simple debate about a difference of opinion anymore. People are so entrenched in their views they simply can't see or appreciate that someone else might feel differently and still be an honest, decent human being. So how in the world, in that kind of a world, do we have confidence in our judiciary? That anyone, can be truly impartial and independent? How do we build confidence in the human beings that we choose to elevate to the bench? And I say elevate because we pay them respect in so many tangible ways. They sit higher than the rest of us in the room. Actually, they sit high up behind a wooden bench. We stand as they enter the room out of respect. We stop talking when they start, and God forbid we interrupt. We hand over to them the fate of our children, our marriages, our businesses, our life savings, our liberty, and ultimately our sense of justice in this world. So how do we know that they're worthy? I'll tell you from experience as a former judge myself, there's nothing magical about a black robe and being handed a gavel that transforms you into a fair and impartial jurist. It has to come from inside, from who you are at your core. So let me tell you a bit about myself. I've been a lawyer for over 30 years. I began as a briefing attorney for the Texas Supreme Court and then spent more than 10 years representing clients in court and became board certified in civil appellate law before I was appointed to be a trial judge at just the ripe old age of 35. I was elected twice by the people of Bexar County, and in addition to my civil docket, I co-led the Child Abuse and Neglect Court and the Family Drug Court. And even after serving on the bench, I continued my career and was recognized as the top litigator in Texas several years in a row before going into the corporate world, where I ended up being the CEO and chairman of the board of one of the top 5 U.S. investment broker dealers. And 2 years ago, I returned to the law and became a mediator, arbitrator, and a private judge. But that just tells you I'm qualified. Who I am at the core is this. I believe it's our duty to use our time in this earth to make this place a bit better than when we found it. Because of that, I tend to run towards problems that others shy away from. I believe it's incredibly important to know who you are and to be that person regardless of whether anyone's looking. And I believe that to get respect, you have to give it. So I know from experience that a judge has a lot of power and very little supervision. And it's really easy to forget who you work for. So I want to pay you the respect of making some basic promises as I assume the bench. I will show up to work every day. I'll manage my staff and colleagues with respect. I'll listen, learn, and debate, again with respect. I'll remember who I work for and why I'm given the opportunity to do what I do as a public servant. I have a demonstrated ability to set aside my own personal agenda. I understand that despite the fact that everyone around me might act like I'm special, the role of the judiciary is limited for a reason. I will respect its boundaries because I understand that what happens if we lose the sanctity of that institution is that we lose the only independent branch of government capable of effectively checking a potentially out-of-control legislative or executive branch, something that could prove to be quite important in the coming years. I don't say that lightly. Like you, I have my own opinions about the various issues impacting our world today, but I've been a judge. I know how hard it is not to do what you personally want to do because it's simply not your role. but how important it is to respect the idea that the institution you serve, the judiciary, is more important than your own individual desire or opinion. Today, we tend to take the position that judges shouldn't have opinions or worldviews. They should be sort of a blank slate. But unless we're looking for unintelligent, uninformed people with no level of curiosity about what's happening in the world, that's an unrealistic expectation. Instead, we should expect our judges to be human, complete with their own thoughts, opinions, needs, and desires, but with something most people don't have, a unique ability to set aside their own interests for the greater interests we all have in a fair, objective, independent judiciary. That takes judgment, it takes discretion, it takes self-control, it takes a selflessness that not many of us have anymore. I've been through quite a bit of tragedy in my life, much of which I haven't spoken of here, but what comes out of tragedy is a wisdom that cannot be taught. What comes is an understanding that the world does not revolve around you, and that sometimes your place is to serve a greater good. That's how we get rid of that sick feeling in our stomach, that how we check that collective brick. We elect judges who we know care about our country and the institution more than they care about advancing their own personal agenda or needs, who we are proud to see sitting up high on that bench, who we are proud to stand in honor of as they enter a room, because they work hard every day to earn our respect. The greatest compliment I ever got as a result of being a judge was when a man introduced himself to me and explained that years ago he found himself in my courtroom for trial. It was his divorce. And he paused. And I held my breath, because the next thing out of his mouth I knew was going to be he either loved me because he won or hated me because he lost. But he surprised me. He shook my hand and he said, "I lost, but you gave me a fair trial. Thank you." That's the kind of thing that will break that brick into a million pieces. I want to serve again as your judge, and I ask for your vote.